Thanks to EA for sponsoring this video. Hey lovelies, it's Kate. Welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. I decided to build Stars Hollow from Gilmore Girls in The Sims 4. Recently I built Wisteria Lane from Desperate Housewives. You can also find this speed build on my channel. And I had so much fun recreating a huge set from a TV show that I wanted to create another one. And when I was teasing the Desperate Housewives build, I got a comment saying, "Oh my gosh, I hope it's Gilmore Girls," and I kind of felt bad, so I decided to actually build Stars Hollow, and I had so much fun building this. Before we continue, remember to use code EMERALD when shopping Sims 4 packs to support me and my channel. Add a pack to your cart, enter Emerald, and apply the code. Right now there's a special promotion where you will save 5% on Sims 4 packs with my code. Thank you so much for your support. First, I decided to work on the iconic gazebo. It's located in the center of the town. It's the town square, and it's so iconic. Even if you haven't properly watched Gilmore Girls, you probably recognize it because you might have caught a glimpse of it here and there when the show was on TV or something, or maybe on social media. And it can also be seen in other TV shows because it's just part of a backlot. And I just wanted to make it look like the real deal, so I made it 2 tiles wide on each side and the dimensions just looked right, it made sense. And I then built the town square around it. I was looking at reference pictures and there is like a path, and then we have like lawn in the center and some trees, and I had to make this smaller. So the dimensions of the square itself around the gazebo might not look right because technically it would have been like much bigger in relation to the gazebo, but because I'm building this on one big 64 by 64 lot, I just had to make this a bit smaller so everything would fit on this slot. And I then decided to start to work on the church, which is also really prominently shown in a lot of shots in the show. And I also, of course, took a look at lots of reference pictures to make it look like the real deal. And again, as always, when I'm working on a build like this, the move lot and move house feature was a lifesaver because I moved all these buildings around so much. I had to make space for different buildings, and you will see this later. But as always, when you work on a build like this, you have to like compromise a little bit. You have to sacrifice. This is how it goes usually. And eventually I reached the point, as you will see, where I built Lorelai's house and then also Mrs. Kim's house. They are neighbors, and I had issues squeezing both houses in onto this lot, and I didn't want to sacrifice one of the houses. I totally wanted to include both of them. So as you will see, they are going to be facing into a different direction than what is shown in the show. I just rotated them by 90 degrees basically, and this way it's like not 100% authentic. They are kind of facing the gazebo now, but I was able to include all of it, and I think this was probably or hopefully the best compromise here. Here at this point I was trying to decide how big I want the road to be. I wanted this to look realistic, but later on I had to make the roads 1 tile smaller because I was really running out of space. So at first I built the gazebo, I then worked on the church, and after this I'm going to work on some of the stores and everything. And it's so much fun because this build really includes different building styles. When I was working on Wisteria Lane, for example, it's like one big suburban dream, but here I had to figure out the gazebo. It was so much fun to work on the path using all the round foundation pieces and everything. The church also has its own style, and then when I was working on these stores and everything, it kind of gave me New York apartment vibes. So it's a nice mix of different styles, which I really enjoyed. And then, of course, when I was working on the residential homes, on the houses of Mrs. Kim and Lorelai, it was a suburban dream again. So this was so much fun. It was like such a versatile, fun build to create. And I hope that I did it justice. Like, this is the most important part for me when I'm working on a replica like this. I wanted to like do the show justice. If you are a big Gilmore Girls fan, I want you to be able to enjoy this. And yeah, as always, please leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Is this fine? Does it look like the real deal? I have to say, I watched a lot of episodes when the show originally aired, probably. So I was like just tuning in and I was watching a couple of episodes, but I never like watched the whole thing from first to last episode. I never like binged watched it. I only like sometimes watched it on TV, and over the years like it was a lot of episodes, but I was never like totally into Gilmore Girls. So I feel like I'm not even the expert here to build this properly. I just looked up lots of pictures. I remembered a lot of stuff from the show, and I just thought it would be fun to recreate it. But I hope that I like really did it justice, because like for Desperate Housewives, I feel like I like know my stuff but not as much when it comes to Gilmore Girls. Oh, and also, like, I already like showed this in the beginning, but this is part 1. This is the exterior, and then in part 2 I'm going to show the interior, which also like follows references, so it's looking like the real deal and everything. So I totally wanted this to look as authentic as possible. And here I'm working on, I guess you could say, this side of the road. These are different buildings right next to each other, and as I said, this just reminds me of New York or something, of apartment buildings, but these are like different stores. There's Doose Market, and then at the end of the road on the left side we will have Luke's Diner, which is like a really important part of the show. And here I was just again looking at reference pictures, and I felt like these buildings would look better if they would be taller, but these only have 2 stories, and I just really made it the best way I could. And I was trying to use the correct windows, and I just kind of noticed that the Discover University windows kind of look flat. I feel like the new ones we got, like for example in Love's Track, they have like more dimension to them, and these kind of look flat. I don't know why, but I like made so many changes to this. I also added details to the exterior to make it look more fun. For example, this wall decoration from Jungle Adventure, and here I'm also like taking some liberties, and I'm just trying to make it look cute, but I still like really followed the references here. I also placed a platform in front of the stores to raise it 1 step. This is supposed to look like a sidewalk. Initially I used this red brick color, but then when I was looking at references, I changed the color, and I'm going to change it to the color the pass in the town square has. And at this point it's really like coming together, it's coming along, it's starting to make sense. Like when I finished the gazebo on the church, I was like, okay, this could be something, but I felt like it was so difficult to really arrange all the different buildings and to make it work, because when I was looking at maps and references, everything was so confusing, and the different maps like had different angles. So I was like trying to make sense of it. And here I'm working at Doose's Market, and the cool thing is that this building has some type of tower at the top, and you can here see how I'm building this, but I'm going to make it 1 tile smaller. Like, I'm generally going to make it smaller because you can see that it's like gigantic, and I eventually wanted it to be slimmer. So in the final version, like you will see, there will be a cut and then it's slimmer, but it was the exact same building process for the tower, and I didn't want to repeat this. But it's going to be slimmer, and then it's going to look more balanced, because in relation to the building size, like the rest of the building, it just wasn't looking right. And here I'm like arranging all these windows, and I'm just so obsessed with the Lost Track windows. I noticed that I'm using them all the time. It's like one of those items that I'm using way too often probably. And if you've been following my videos for a while, you know that this like happens every now and then. We get a pack. I'm super obsessed with a new item and I cannot stop using it. And I feel like the Lost Track windows are definitely that item right now. I then added a roof. I used a combination of 2 different roofs. And if you want to change the shape the way I did here, you simply have to like click on the roof and then you press Shift C and then you get additional options. Like, you know, we have these little spheres when you like manipulate the roof shape, and you get additional ones when you do this. So this is like a little trick that you can use, and you will have like more liberties changing the shape if you want to do this. Also, if you want to have like a regular roof and you want it to be like more round, like a half circle, you can also change the shape much easier if you like press Shift C and you have these additional options. I also used core builds everywhere because when you look at the original buildings, like at the reference, it's looking pretty similar, and I could have used like different freezes for this, but a lot of the very cool freezes can only be used if you are using a taller wall height. And this was also something that kind of bothered me when I was working on the Desperate Housewives build, because I would have loved to like use a freeze for Gabby's house, for example, like a different one, but I decided to stick to the smallest wall height for Wisteria Lane, and you're always like super limited when you do this. And I feel like when you're working on a build with multiple buildings, a small wall height is like the safest bet, because it's like easily looking super weird if you're using super tall walls, unless it's like a build which like requires really high walls. But for most builds, the smallest wall height is probably the safest bet. And this is Luke's diner, and this building is like angled a little bit, as you can see. We have the super cool roof that was really difficult to create at first, because you can like really move roofs into each other and you can like create a really smooth edge. And I was struggling with this at first because of the diagonal part, as you can here see. I then changed the roof. I used a different one, and then it was luckily working and it was looking good, because here at this point this was really bothering me. And it's like really blue. We have these blue shutters and the windows are white. It's looking like a lot different from the other buildings on the street, which have a more warm vibe, and this building like is really blue and more cool toned. I decided to use platforms for the roof. You can also create this type of roof by using a room. I always recommend the lowest wall height for this most of the time, but then again, you have like a room that you might not want to use really, because it's like really annoying to have a room which doesn't have any windows because there are roofs all around it. So I really recommend just using a platform. And here I'm starting to work on Lorelai's and Rory's house. So the thing is, this would be like rotated by 90 degrees. So if you think of the church, it would be facing into the same direction, and it would like, it was just running out of space. So I decided to do it this way, and I built this house first, and this was so much fun. It also like really needed a lot of shaping and changing, because I feel like it's super easy to kind of build a house from the exterior, like just the exterior if you follow a reference, but then making the floor plan work is a totally different story, because I was looking up floor plans of this house and I noticed, okay, I can build the exterior like this and it's looking right and the dimensions make sense, but it's not going to make any sense whatsoever on the inside. The main issue is, and I also talked about this in my Wisteria Lane speed build, when it comes to TV shows and movies, you have these exterior shots and then you have the sets which are built on sound stages. And a lot of the times these don't line up. And here they actually do, I think. I think my main problem was probably just the dimensions, because it looked cute and cozy in this size in the game, but then I just needed more space for the kitchen and everything. And also the door wasn't centered here at this point, and it had to be centered in order for the floor plan to make sense. So there were like a lot of changes, and I think it's looking so cute. What I think is a bit odd is the fact that we have these 3 windows on the left side, and when you look at the real house at the reference, reference, this is exactly what it's looking like. And this really confused me. And here you can see how I'm like working on the floor plan. I already sized the whole thing up, like the whole build, and you can see the hallway and everything, and it's really starting to make sense, which made me so happy. And I'm so excited to furnish this for part 2 because it's just looking so cozy. Also in the references, also what I remember from the show, I'm like really excited to make this as cozy and cluttered as possible. This is going to be so much fun. And I then added more roofs and also a blue wallpaper. And I wish we would have like a different wooden wallpaper for the exterior, which is slightly more blue. We have one which is like too dark for what I was going for here. This one is like really pastel and washed out. I need one which like a, I don't know, like a really beautiful sky blue, but like not too blue, not too pastel. Like this is something that I have been hoping for years now. And this here is the neighbor's house. This is Mrs. Kim's house, which is like a shared space. It's like a antique store and also like livable space, like a normal house. And this one also looks so cute. And when you look at the yellow wallpaper, it's like not too pastel, it's not too vibrant, and this is exactly what I was talking about, like about the blue wallpaper. Like this is exactly what I want, but in blue, please. I then worked on the sidewalk, and Mrs. Kim's house is like located at the corner, and it has like a round fence, and I totally wanted to do it the same way, even though like it's angled into a different direction. I still wanted to have the front yard like this. I used this beautiful picket fence, which was just perfect, and I was really happy with how this turned out because it's looking like the real deal. Like you can recognize the houses, and I feel like it's making sense, and there's also enough space around the house to be like slightly realistic. Wisteria Lane was like really crammed in and I was really running out of space. I feel like this makes sense, and I'm happy that I decided to rotate these. I added some like a pass and everything. And also in like this town, it's like almost like eternal autumn. There are seasons in Gilmore Girls, but this show is just giving all the good autumn vibes, and it's the perfect rewatch for autumn. And I love this because, you know, I'm obsessed with autumn, and this is also why I added these debug trees from Life and Death, because they like have this orange color. They always look autumnal, and like it doesn't matter which season you have, these trees will always have this beautiful color, and this perfect. I then also added the high school. I think I'm going to turn this into a library in part 2 because we have high schools because of high school years, but this is like supposed to be a lot where you have multiple families, and I just want this to be like functional, make sense. So this will like some type of library, desks and bookshelves and everything. And yeah, here I'm just adding a couple of pumpkins to really make it more autumnal. And I just thought, okay, I don't want this to be like a proper autumn build because autumn is over, and I just didn't want this to be like too autumnal, but I still had to add these little details because it's Stars Hollow. And also in this area we would have like different houses, but because I changed the layout, I decided to just turn this into a park or playground to really utilize this space to like really make sense of the layout we have here. And this video is slowly coming to an end. This was part 1 of recreating Stars Hollow from Gilmore Girls in The Sims 4. In part 2, I'm going to add more details. I'm going to furnish all the buildings, and after part 2, this build will go up in the gallery. I'm so excited to show you more. I'm so excited to furnish this and to just add all the final touches to make this as perfect as possible. And I want to remind you that you can use code Emerald in the EA app and EA.com to support me and my channel. And currently there's a promotion going on, and you can actually save 5%. So you can use this code not only to support me, but also to save 5%. This is a limited promotion. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. You can here see so many screenshots and everything. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've enjoyed this build, and tell me in the comments what was your favorite part about Gilmore Girls. And no spoilers, please, as always, in case there are like some really important spoilers. I'm not the Gilmore Girls expert, as I said. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all so much, and I hope I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.